All right, let's talk about a critical discipline that honestly is often misunderstood, but is absolutely central to every successful engineering project: human factors engineering. When most of us hear human factors, our minds immediately go to the physical stuff, right? We think about workstation ergonomics, the angle of stairs, or maybe a control room layout. But that's just scratching the surface. The reality is, human factors engineering is about designing how work gets done. It's a much bigger idea about engineering the entire system: the people, the technology, and the organization, so they all work together seamlessly. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to nail down what HFE actually is. Then, we'll see how it plugs right into your daily engineering work. After that, we'll push beyond just physical design into the digital and organizational worlds, see what its role is with new tools like AI, and finally, we'll get right to the bottom line: the business case for management. Okay, so let's get right into it. What is human factors engineering at its absolute core? Well, first off, it's a formal engineering discipline. It's not just a nice to have. And the key here is its focus on socio-technical systems. Now, that might sound a little academic, but all it means is any system where people and technology have to work together to get something done. HFE is all about deliberately engineering that interaction to make it as safe and efficient as possible. So, how does that actually work in practice? Well, the whole HFE approach starts by studying how work is really getting done out in the field, not just how the procedure says it should be done. Doing this uncovers those mismatches between how we design something and how it's actually used. The whole goal then is to engineer out that unnecessary complexity and get rid of the very things that force people into risky workarounds. And this right here, this is the most crucial takeaway. When you see a team creating clever workarounds to deal with a clunky interface or a confusing process, that is not a behavior problem. It's an engineering problem. It's a bright, flashing sign that there's a gap in the system design, and it's on us, as engineers, to fix it. Okay, so you might be thinking, this sounds interesting, but where does it fit in? Let's look at how HFE connects directly to familiar engineering functions. This isn't some separate, isolated activity. It's already woven into the work your teams are doing every single day. And you can see, it really does integrate across the board. In project engineering, it's helping us make better decisions on layout and maintainability. For operations and maintenance, it's tackling things like workload and making sure critical tasks are manageable. In IT, it's all about designing user interfaces that actually work for people. And yeah, even within our own engineering workflows, it helps streamline handovers and reduces the cognitive load on our design teams. The bottom line is this: HFE applies everywhere, throughout the entire life cycle. If people are part of the system, and they almost always are, then their interaction with that system needs to be properly engineered. Simple as that. Now, let's push this idea even further. The value of HFE goes way beyond the physical equipment that you can see and touch. So yeah, HFE definitely covers ergonomics and control rooms for sure, but its principles are just as powerful when we apply them to the non-physical, almost invisible parts of our work. We're talking about the usability of our digital systems, the clarity of our procedures, how we allocate tasks, even the way we design the handoffs between different teams. This really says it all, doesn't it? Human factors engineering is about designing the complete work system. It doesn't matter if that system is a physical plant, a digital tool we use every day, or an organizational process. It all needs to be designed for people. So, what happens when we start throwing things like AI and machine learning into the mix? Does that make the human factor less important? Well, you might be surprised to hear it's actually the complete opposite. AI and machine learning are popping up everywhere, right? They're getting baked into our operational systems, and it's fundamentally changing how our teams make decisions and see information. This is creating a whole new world of human-system interaction, and with it comes a whole new set of risks, but also some really incredible opportunities. And here's the absolute kicker. AI doesn't take the person out of the loop. It just changes their job. They move from being in direct control to being a supervisor, an overseer. That is a massive shift, and it has to be engineered with the exact same rigor we'd apply to a piece of physical equipment. All right, let's talk brass tacks. Let's talk about the business case. How does all of this actually deliver tangible value to our projects and, to the bottom line? For any project manager or leader watching, this is probably the question on your mind. Why should we spend time and resources integrating HFE right from the get-go? Well, check out this number. Research shows that a whopping 60% of the bottlenecks we find late in a project are tied to issues with operability and maintainability. These are the exact problems that a good HFE approach is built to catch and solve early on, when making a change is cheap and easy. And that is precisely where the value is. Doing HVA right means drastically cutting down on expensive rework. It means lowering the long-term operational burden on the people who have to live with this asset for decades. And what's the result of all that? A huge boost in delivery certainty and overall project performance. So it's so important that we stop looking at HFE as just another compliance checkbox we have to tick. It's a strategic discipline. It's something that directly supports project delivery, smooth operations, and safe long-term performance. All right, let's bring this all together. It's really time we start thinking about HFE as a core engineering discipline, one that's fundamentally about designing systems that actually work for people. Look, human factors engineering isn't some niche specialty reserved for a handful of experts. It is a fundamental part of engineering. Its tools and methods can help any team, whether you're in mechanical, process, software, you name it, design systems that people can use exactly as we intended, safely, efficiently, and consistently. And if you take away just one thing, let it be this. The next time you see someone's clever workaround or you hear that's just the way we have to do it, I want you to remember this quote. If people have to work around the system, it's a sure sign that the system itself needs better engineering.